You may be asking yourself the following question when it comes to minimalism: where do I start? Maybe you're completely new to minimalism, or maybe you already started decluttering your home and downsizing your belongings, or maybe you have taken quite a few steps but you're unsure about what to do next. This video is going to give you lots of tips and inspiration for where to begin and how to move forward. After about 7-8 years of minimalist living, it really has become like a second nature to me, but that wasn't always the case, and it's completely normal to feel a bit overwhelmed in the beginning or unsure about where to begin or what to do first. So if you recognize this, know that that's okay, and there's really no one correct answer to the question how to become a minimalist. It is a journey and we're allowed to make it our own. However, for this video, I took some time and I sat down and I really got to thinking. And I identified 10 steps that I feel would really be helpful for almost everyone starting on their minimalism journey. So let's start with the first. The first thing that I would recommend everyone to do is to try and use up what you already have in your home. So in other words, start shopping from your own home first. And by doing that, you are slowly starting to break the pattern and the habit of buying new things without really thinking about it. This is a really easy thing to do, but super helpful and really effective if we want to change our lifestyle. So let's say something comes up. There's an item that you might need, or a special occasion, or maybe even an occasion where you want to give someone a gift. Instead of going shopping for that item, first try and see if you already own something in your home that you can use. Or maybe do a temporary shopping ban on cosmetics and beauty products and instead using them up what you already have. Or think about things like food items in your pantry, or hobby items, or books or video games. And this can help us to slowly get out of that mindset that a lot of us are in, that we need to buy new things regularly, and we start to notice that we actually already have most of what we need most of the time. So by buying less, you are spending less money and you are acquiring less new things, which makes this the perfect first step towards living a more minimalist lifestyle. And the second thing that I would recommend everyone to do, beginners, but also people who have already started with minimalism or perhaps decluttering, to ask yourself why, and to really have it clear for yourself how your life would be better with less stuff, or why would less mean more for you. And this can be different for different people. Maybe you want to regain more control of your finances or more authority over your life and how you spend your money and your time. Maybe you can find ways that it could improve your health, your relationships, or your hobbies. Or maybe it's just about feeling better in your own home. Or perhaps you have a dream of moving into a smaller space that's more easily affordable. If you feel like you might need some inspiration for how minimalism can change your life for the better, I actually have a list of 25 benefits of minimalism in this video, so I will leave a link for you in the description box below. The third step that I would recommend everyone to do is to set up some rules for yourself. And since I don't really like the word rules that much, I prefer to call them personal policies. And there's going to be times when you'll make an exception, and that is okay. There's no need to be restrictive, but these personal policies can really be very helpful and make it easier on you and also empower you on your journey towards simplifying. Now, of course, you can choose them for yourself, but just to give you an idea, here are some of my personal policies that I have when it comes to minimalism. For example, I don't buy things on impulse, and I always have to sleep on it at least for one night up to 30 days. If I haven't worn a clothing item in the last year, I either sell it or donate it. I only bring something new into my home if I already have a place for it in my mind that I feel comfortable with for that item. And if I bring in something new, I also get rid of something else that I'm not using anymore. So you could take some time, sit down, and just figure out a few things that you could do to help yourself out as you start living a more minimalist lifestyle. Number 4 is important, and that is to give yourself permission to let go. One of the hardest and most challenging things about minimizing our possessions is the many different feelings and emotions that we might encounter in the process. And I think one of the more difficult ones is feelings of guilt. We can experience guilt over many different reasons. Maybe an item was just really expensive and we don't feel like we've gotten our money's worth yet or gotten enough use out of it yet. Maybe an item was a gift. Maybe maybe it belonged to a special someone who's not in our life anymore. Or maybe just simply because it still looks new and it would be such a waste because what if we might need it someday? I always say that guilt alone is never a good enough reason to hang on to something, because by keeping an item, first, we're not going to get any money back in our pocket, and second, it does not mean that we're even going to actually start using it. 99% of the times it'll just mean that the item is going to continue living in our home without being used and without being loved, and that is just not worth it. Giving yourself permission to let go means accepting that you are not perfect and accepting that yes, it might very well be a waste, but keeping it around is not going to fix anything. And this also applies to the fantasy versions that we have of ourselves in our head. So maybe we always fancied ourselves a baker, but we have to accept the fact that we haven't used these kitchen tools in over a year, and we're probably not going to. So that means letting go of this kind of idealized image that we have of ourselves in our head. And yes, that can be a little painful sometimes, but we can give ourselves permission to let that go. Number 5 is to start getting in the mindset of evaluating your things rather than just accepting the status quo. So before you even start with a massive decluttering, you could get actually in the habit of looking at your items in a new way. So let's say your eyes fall on your juicer. You could ask yourself, why is this here? Should this thing be here? And do I use it enough? And if so, is this actually the best place for it? And also, how would my life be different if this thing wasn't here? So start decluttering as you go, and it's the same when you put on a clothing item in the morning and you notice, yeah, it doesn't really feel right, you're not gonna wear it that day, maybe it doesn't fit right, or maybe it's damaged in some place. Instead of hanging it back in your closet, put it in a donation box or a recycling box. There's a lot more coming up, but first, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Vera, and I talk about minimalism, intentional living, happiness, and self-care on this channel. So be sure to subscribe if you're not already, and if you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up because that really helps. And you can also find me on Patreon, where I share exclusive videos like this one, and you'd also be supporting the channel. So check it out, patreon.com/simplehappyzen. Next on the minimalism tips is to make sure that you are not falling in the organization trap. So if you are trying to improve your home by organizing, it is going to be hard, most likely, because the best way to organize your stuff is to get rid of everything and anything that you are either not using or that just does not make sense to be in your home. And the same goes for picking a style, whether that's a decor style for your home or a fashion style for your wardrobe. We all know these beautiful pictures on Pinterest and Instagram, and we want to get there as fast as possible. But decluttering first and getting rid of all the noise is going to make it so much easier. I have a whole playlist on how to declutter your home and exactly which steps to take, but there's 2 videos that I recommend in particular, and these are the videos, so I will leave them both in the description box below for you to check out. I've talked about this before, but please know that it is okay to take small steps. In fact, it's better to take small steps when you're trying something new and kind of just throwing your whole lifestyle around. And especially when it comes to decluttering and downsizing your belongings, which is how most people get started with minimalism. If you feel overwhelmed sometimes, know that that's okay and that you do not have to get it all over with within a week. And I think I've heard somewhere that the average American household has 300,000 items in it. So yeah, that's a lot. So take some time to think about how much time it actually took you to accumulate all of your stuff. Probably years and years, so you can't really expect yourself to get it all fixed and start with a clean slate within a week. Something else that I find very important for everyone who's interested in living a more minimal life is that you are allowed to keep things that bring you joy, even if they're not necessarily that minimalist. And I think that a lot of people are not really keen on trying this whole minimalism thing out because they are scared that they would have to get rid of their book collection or their hobby items or their scrapbooks or things like that. And you cannot be a minimalist if you have ... is a myth. It is your life, you decide, not anyone else, and you are allowed to keep things that continue to bring you joy. In my experience, there were a few items that I felt like that in the beginning and I decided to keep them, and I still have them to this day, but there's also items that I felt like that, and then after a few years I did feel ready to let them go. But you should never feel like you need to force it. And the next tip that I would recommend everyone to do is to have some sort of alternative activity ready to go that is not shopping. to kind of act as a counterweight to our more consumerist habits. If you want to try that minimalism thing and shop less, especially when you're used to shopping a lot, it can be a little tricky if you don't have kind of like a replacement activity to do whenever you get the urge to go shopping. And minimalism is not about deprivation. So I always say it is not just about less, it is about more through less. So you can take some time to think like, what would you want more of in your life? And how could you make more space and time and opportunity available for that thing? If you are having a hard time shopping less, what is something that you could do to kind of take your mind off it in the moment? And deciding not to shop mindlessly anymore and instead go shopping with intention does get easier after some time has passed, but especially in that first initial stage, it really does help to have some kind of replacement activity for yourself. And the last tip that I have for all minimalists, whether you are a beginner, an intermediate, or a minimalism pro, is to stay open to new ideas and opportunities, and to know that it is perfectly okay if you feel like you don't know what you're doing or where you're going. It's normal that when you are in the process of letting go of a lot of things, baggage, whether that's actual physical stuff or more the form of mental and emotional baggage, that you are going to feel a bit lost at times or unsure about things, and that is okay, and actually it's part of it. No change is always easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is, and it's gonna get easier and feel more natural as you explore it more and start to notice all kinds of surprising benefits that you didn't even expect. You don't have to have it all figured out before you even begin. You just begin somewhere, and then you learn and you grow and you make mistakes and you learn even more. And after a while, maybe something new emerges. So try to stay open to new ideas and opportunities as they come along for you. Now let me ask you, what was your biggest challenge when you were starting out with minimalism? Or if you were starting out now, what do you find difficult? And also, which tips or advice would you give to other people reading your comments who are experiencing the same thing? Because I really love those little conversations in the comments, so let's get that happening. Also, please subscribe to the channel if you're not already and join our little gang, and of course please give this video a thumbs up. Right here I have a video about how to think like a minimalist. Right here I have decluttering secrets you need to know, and as always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week, my friends. Bye bye.